Don't want to run it down before the series is over.
Speaking of running it down, there's a hook onto Def Blind. Well,
that would have been a way to. We joined forces to destroy SKT.
That's kind of been the dynamic between Peanut and, of course, Smeb. Smeb believes that Peanut, took the easy way out and joined SKT, as the Rocks Tigers were always unable to really take down SKT when it mattered. Whereas Smeb, like you say, took a couple of players coming back to Korea. They have also Score, the jungler who's been long-suffering but always one of our top two. And they wanted to engineer the downfall of SKT. Doing it here would mean so much to the KT faithful. They're all starting to think after what was a very resounding victory for SKT in Game 3.
Well, we're going to start things off with a bit more spiciness as that Infernal Drake. The first dragon that we get to see on the Rift. The first one of this series, actually. So we've had everything else pay a visit. SKT just going to get a bit of assist there. On to Blank so we can get underway. Starting over at the blue side.
Interesting that they still go for a topside first camps for Score. This is something that Blank would have been watching, you remember, in Game 1. So you have full information that Score went for a very greedy full clear and had no interest in ganking. With the lanes as snowbally as they are, this may be information that could just lead to Blank going super hard. This is one of the fun things you can do with the leash.
Smash them together.
Patience doesn't run out, so able to take both camps at the same time.
Zach is kind of like a child playing with his action figures, and when you say like they're fighting, you just kind of hit them together.
He doesn't throw them across the room, though. He brings them together, which is probably the difference. Children usually throw them away. Red buff
being, how much they like it.
That's true. Red buff being taken in visions. They know the pathing of Blank. Late ward was put down by Smeb.
Hook coming through. We'll find the connection. Go ahead, drop that lantern, but this time they have the body block, and Depth is going to take a bit of damage from that explosive charge. So good hook coming through from Wolf.
Well, if that's the early laning hook that's going to hit, happy that it wasn't the one over the wall blind. Does lead to Deft having to pull back. Doesn't use his potion, though. Just has the Doran shield regen. Yep, Scorn's going to score. Score is going to be greedy. Scorn is coming later, perhaps, but Score, it's going to be greedy with the full clear.
Hell hath no fury like a Score scorned.
I mean, Faker was the one who was mad after Game 3, and certainly he seemed scorned and turned it around, but Score often loses, so I don't know what really his score is like. Scorn is like. That's a hard word. I'm going to stop saying scorn. It's too hard. Let's talk about scones instead.
Scones?
Good times.
I haven't had a scone in quite some time.
Change that, maybe, in the future.
Oh, you gonna buy me a scone?
Sure.
Thank you.
I know a good place. A mandate's in order.
All right. I happily accept.
Talked about Deft and Mata getting lane presence in bot lane, able to push out, clear away the vision and also the blast cone and return to lane. Expecting a lot of hijinks around bot side, but more around the level 6. This early, a lot harder to pull off, so the standard lanes, the Renekton's happily pushed in top, and Score going for a creative gank here. He's level 4, so he can get over this wall pretty happily.
Gonna be looking for it here as they start pushing forward. Gets the pop up there onto Bang.
Interrupts
nice
again.
play, yeah, pulls him back in, forces out the flash.
The interrupts on the rocket jump have been pretty pinpoint in this series, but that one not gonna lead to the downfall of Bang. His flash is down, heal was down earlier from Deft.
Baker now going low. While throwing out those threaded volleys, trying to get those hits down onto the Corki. Not gonna have kill pressure quite yet, but still just has kind of Faker kind of backed up into the wall. But now maybe a bit overextended. Pawn is cheating up towards the top side of that river. Needs to get out of here quickly. Flash body slam coming through. Gatling gun firing away. Pawn's gonna try to turn this one around. Gets the hits in, but Faker, he flashes out, and first blood goes over to Blank.
It wasn't able to flash fast enough. Didn't see the body slam flash come through. So nice stuff from the side of Blank. I was going to mention that KT were being pretty greedy, pushing in 3 lanes while Score was largely farming.
Hook coming down. Yeah, they find Deft, and he might be dead this time around.
No
Double
heal.
play coming through. Ignite is ticking away. And Bang doesn't have the flash to pursue in to try to get a reset, so Deft will be staying alive for the moment.
So much action almost instantly there. The hooks have been pinpoint accurate from the side of Wolf, and not been able to get any value from the Lantern.
Forward yet again, this time Mata just going to try to body block, still takes quite a bit of damage. Hook comes down, they do find Bang, but Blank is arriving. Smeb off the TP, takes him down, but has to flash away. as there's still 3 rather healthy members nearby.
The TP was cancelled by Ontara, so he'll stay in lane and be able to push out as well in a trade that only leads to a 1-for-0 from KT Rolster on that teleport. They'll get a good back timing as well. Able to once again catch Bang with the hook. Death sentences out of this world by Mata in the series, but only a 1 kill and a pretty big investment. Missing out on a wave of minions that Farmer Score will go and find.
Go ahead, pick these up. Gonna get to that level 6. He's a little over halfway there. So they'll get him pretty darn close. If not, just close it out for him.
Blank has had a very straightforward job this game. Again, KT Rolster had 3 pushing lanes and a Zac who didn't really want to gank, so he was able to get the kill in mid lane. Hasn't been able to find a second punishment, but if KT keep wanting to play with fire without necessarily full vision to do so, it'll take some pretty severe outplays to make it work.
I like Faker's style. Goes straight for the Sheen rather than the Hex Drinker. He's putting a lot of faith in his ability to dodge out from these skill shots upon.
To no one's surprise that Faker putting a lot of faith in his own abilities.
That's what got him this far. Are going to be spotted, however. So we'll just go ahead and peel back away from that mid lane.
Information available for Pawn. He knows that Blitzcrank is not in lane, and he sees Braga's trying to clear wards on the top side, so we'll just pull back. Pawn needs to stay competitive, which he has done this series, it's worth noting. Even Game 3 was doing fine on the LeBlanc. Him getting run over is probably the surest way to an SKT victory, because when Faker has lane control and the ability to roam first, those games have a very high win rate for SK Telecom.
Well, they got the shove down here in the bottom lane. As you might expect, the Caitlyn is inching out quite far ahead of Bang. Assist in his inventory.
Mentioned the tempo around bot lane was one of the most important things for this game. Answering the Tristana when she tries to go aggressive. Answering the first brick gold in the bot lane, which is probably the most likely place given the comps we have in bot side. And so far, KT, with the completed teleport, have been able to do that. And it's led to a 13 CS advantage and also kill involvement for Deft.
Right now looking for the blue buff, but Score doesn't have the smite quite yet, nor does Blank. Blue buff's going to go low. Who can get this one? Can't quite see who's got it taken away, but in the meantime, Mata goes down as Bang finds the kill. Now Score very far forward, goes low. Leaps to the side, pulls Wolf out, but it's just going to be the killing fields coming through here for SK Telecom as they scoop up 2 kills, 2 for 1 in their favor.
They didn't even need Ontara to get there. He was roaming first, would have been the first person there because no one had teleport. Faker able to walk down, got the blue buff. Now able to get the push in and bot side, only Talia to be able to recover anything. No use of the Weaver's Wall by Pawn was very interesting, not even to try to cut off some of the sight lines. Even just ulting and getting vision of the brush closest to the enemy turret would have been useful. But instead, holds on to it, maybe for a future fight where we'll have both summoners and also the mobility of the Weaver's Wall. You can't deny the 2-for-1 trade. Suits SKT.
Certainly does. On down here, just trying to scoop up as much as he can. So far, we haven't seen much priority or vision placed around that Infernal Drake. Has been getting a little bit delayed. As Deft and Mata are actually going to rotate over into the mid lane.
Talia was covering bot lane, so just picking up a bit of farm and forcing Faker to be somewhere on the map so he can't make a play somewhere else.
So perhaps we would see them stick around, but yeah, you're right. Just going to go ahead and rotate back down.
They had the summoners up, so they're not as worried about playing against Blitzcrank, even though the control around the bot side is starting to go more and more the way of SKT. If summoners were down, I think a lane swap was possible. Does throw Pawn a bit under the bus, but it's going to guarantee farm on Caitlyn. That works just fine. When we have seen Caitlyn, she has been able to do what everyone fears from this pick. Pushing down the turrets has been pretty reliable, even if not all the Caitlyn games recently have been victories. Ruler and Samsung had a good early game on the Caitlyn, but eventually were undone by the team fighting of SKT. And they're getting the deep vision in to spot Score, which is so helpful for the laners. Score very conspicuous, walks through a control ward.
And Smeb as well is spotted out. The wrap around there onto Faker. As the Flash and the Valkyrie both available. But now KT's starting to go ahead and pay attention towards this bottom side of the river. Wolf waiting over. Does have the element of surprise. Will get popped away from that lantern, but still gets it in the end. Not going to be losing out on that pass.
Mata actually shorted the W there, the Dark Passage, so didn't end up having to use his flash, but Score will leave, and this is as Infernal Drake has finally been left unattended. There have been no attempts on it as first spawn this far. It's probably going to be a freebie over to the side of SKT.
Yeah, Pawn chunked out, not going to be able to get his way over there. And Smeb and Tara both have the TP, so would be matched. So SK Telecom going to have that man advantage here. So it seems like first Drake of the game will be going over to them. Got around 11 minutes. We'll see what we get next. Going to be another, seems like it will be an Ocean Drake. We'll be following up, but have that nice 8% AD and AP to back them up.
Hadn't been for the trade down in bot side, with the pushing lanes they had earlier, KT would have fancied themselves for the first Drake of the game, with Infernal being the first spawn, not able to. Now we're looking for a top lane party.
Are making their roam up here in Tara. We're halfway to transforming, so could still get his way out of here. Flash in for the stun seismic shove to push him back. He gets the double hop, and he'll be quite all right. And his Faker arrives, so now KT not even going to be able to put pressure down onto the turret, but instead they want to turn this around in onto the Corki. Do drag him back in, but he makes it over the wall with a flash. Now the flash hook coming through Pawn, getting popped up. Goes low with the Ignite. Smeb going in deep, push to the side. Will get taken down, and Tara finds the kill, and now Score in a bad spot. Gets the Elastic Slingshot out. Boulder not going to connect. They're not out of dodge yet. Wolf is still chasing in, but the seismic shove from Pawn might have bought them enough distance.
These sort of fights would have worked with the Kalista with more initiation options in game 1 and 2, but without that big, KT are being just too damn bold. They don't need to go as far as they are for kills. They can pull away with the small pressure advantages they've been able to get. But SKT continue to trade up. They have the Infernal Drake as well. All this time, Stana's happily farming. Caitlyn is picked to win lane, doesn't have a big CS advantage over the Stana. Things are going better than expected for the Blitzcrank lane and for SK Telecom in the early game.
I don't know which one of you guys out there got excited, but you've ruined it all. No, I'm just kidding. I love it. Thank you so much, because now it's looking like we might just end up with that game number 5, unless KT can turn things around in a major way. It's only 1.3 thousand gold that they're down, but SKT, they're looking for a bit more here, as Smeb does get jumped on. It's slowed up. Tries to get a little bit of health back there, but pop to the side. This means that he is going to go down. Has the slice, but no dice. Just going to buy a little bit of time.
Pop goes the Crocodiles, not one of the nursery rhymes I'm familiar with, but...
Really? Not even in Australia?
Nope. Long last, the Crocodile does go down. Smeb too far up. Had a ward down. In fact, had 2 wards, and yet was taken down. That's his mistake. His Faker feeling confident, buoyed by the earlier action.
Seismic shove not going to connect, but a lot of that threaded volley certainly does. He does go low. It's a pretty even trade overall. In the meantime, when Tara are going to get a lot of time with that tier 1 turret alone in the top lane, as Smeb has still not respawned and does not have the TP.
KT going to turn onto the Rift Herald. This was a site of a lot of the downfall of KT Rolster in the previous game, where they got a good lead but didn't actually stick the setup around Rift Herald. Gave away some kills, and SKT with that immediate gold snowballed the game away. And slowly inching towards top lane. Turret might go down, or will be very, very close.
We're getting it as much as possible, but he knows that Smeb should be here anytime, so he'll go ahead and peel back in the meantime. Gerald does get finished off there by Blank, so now has that ready to go. They can use that to try to shatter something like this mid-outer turret if they so please. Sort of just have their pick of the litter. It would be a guaranteed kill onto the tier 1 turret, but seems like maybe a bit of a waste if they want to try to use it up there, unless they're set up to push into the tier 2.
And they want the maximum, which would be Talia's turret going down, relieving global pressure. Score's definitely got a good angle. 5 points into the Elastic Slingshot.
He's going to go ahead, jump over, but Bang has the sidestep, and he'll be fine.
Blitzcrank there. Even with the Q registering, wasn't going to be real kill pressure. Def going for a single target build, rushing the Infinity Edge. Berserker Greaves and the Pickaxe and BF Sword is very standard, but usually a Zeal item will come in after. Punished by the lower base attack speed as well.
Baker just going on a little bit of a ride.
The wild ride of the Corki certainly has worked for SK Telecom T1. Held the LeBlanc really well in Game 3, and this game has pressure on the Talia. The matchup only got better for Faker when it comes to lane opponents for the Corki. Haven't been able to push Vision as deep as they would like. Deep Vision plus Blitzcrank is usually going to be free Drakes and even Barons because of how much respect the locus of control you have for where the hook might come from. Laning phase, you can just work off the long hook cooldown, but when you're dealing with control wards, you don't have the same luxury. farming in the mid lane. Nothing growing, but it's a Black Cleaver Gnar pushing into Renekton. A great spot, even though Renekton has a Black Cleaver of his own. KT has a bit of information about where Gragas is, so they can start to put the troops together to repel a use of the Rift Herald. But everything suits SK Telecom. Very sweet.
Bang, just sitting nice and comfortably here as the Rift Herald will get summoned up, so they want to break this mid lane outer turret. Wolf running forward.
So I haven't seen our first weave as well.
Yeah. Trap line thrown down. Only going to need to take one of those is SKT. They might just abandon the Rift Herald here, though. Try to finish off the turret. So not getting a whole lot from it, but it's severely weakened. So a couple seconds alone with that one, and Bang will be able to take down the turret. No problem. In the meantime, Muntara is just going to go ahead and take that one out top.
And that's the sort of percentage play you make, where you don't need to get greedy for the mid lane turret when you have a guaranteed turret on top, and eventually this turret will fall, and the eventually is roughly 10 seconds. So big burst of gold going the way of SK Telecom. It's in the lanes you'd expect them to find advantages, but this is the second time that KT have tried to run Taliyah against SK Telecom. Taliyah on the front foot, one of the most powerful champions in League of Legends with almost instant wave clear and the ability to have that semi-global. But from behind, when we're never really seeing any value at all from the Weaver's Wall, she's just second to everything, and all we're seeing is a bit of farm cleaned up. And speaking of farm, a massive farm discrepancy as he's been punished the maximum way, trying to make his way around the map, and it's 50 CS behind Faker.
Yeah, a bit odd to see the Taliyah not using the Weaver's Wall. I mean, well, A, odd to see that. B, getting outroamed by Faker, who sometimes has the package. So, just an odd performance here from Pawn so far, and it's not looking great for him. Only has the Morel and Omicron in the inventory. Compared to the BF Sword, Double Dagger, and Triforce of this Corki, so Faker's going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage. In the meantime, though, we finally see the Weaver's Wall coming through. Tries to cut off people away from this Tier 1 turret here in the mid lane, but even then, they just don't have the damage to finish it off.
It's 24's BF Sword Corki getting free shots onto the inner turret in bot side and getting most of the health already. Pawn walks down, doesn't have teleport, of course, and doesn't have the Weaver's Wall either. So this could be a teleport play or a map rotation for SKT. Talked about what happens when Faker gets his way in the lane, and this is kind of what the game looks like, Kilios, as people were probably puzzled by Cassidy in game 1 that could have led to something, but KT, good early game, stopped that from leading to something. The Galio in game 2, that was really well read by the Gangplank pick by Pawn. And now that he's on the Corki, who wins those tough matchups and also is able to be unleashed on the map, it's much more vintage Faker than we got in game 1 and game 2.
And SKT not stopping there. They get a lot of damage down onto that tier 2 in the bottom lane. Faker's just going to roam up and help assist in the take of this Ocean Drake. So second dragon of the game going over to SK Telecom. We'll see what the third one is going to be. In just a moment, it's another Infernal Drake. That is going to have to be the fighting, or the battleground for KT if they want to stop SK Telecom, because double Infernal Drake with the lead that they already have is likely just going to be the end of them.
So difficult to make those fights work. They don't have map pressure and Zac. They only have the Zac part in game 4 compared to game 1. Renekton's been answered by the Gnar about as cleanly as possible. They can't get teleport wards in that are deep because their control ward line well established from SKT. So even forcing a fight is difficult. Thresh from behind, so different to the Thresh we saw game 1, game 2, even early game 3. Blitzcrank from ahead, just a complete terror.
Yeah. From the start of the game, Wolf has been striking fear into the hearts of the members of KT, just from the blind hooks over the wall, trying to threaten them back.
He's been kind of refusing to go on Ashe this series. Could have gone Ashe for a full pick comp in game 3. Could have gone Ashe here. Took the Caitlyn because of power level, which I understand, but from behind, from ahead, the Caitlyn, oppressive. From behind, the Ashe would provide so much use right now that she's largely just going to be pushing waves and backing off, and already the late game was toned down in patch 7.14.
Yeah, the only utility you really end up with is the traps, and the enemy has to be stupid enough or willing enough to go ahead and step on those, so it's not nearly as reliable as those Ashe arrows. But then again, for depth, maybe it is about a similar amount of reliability.
Zoning arrows, never something you want to hear from an Ashe player, and unfortunately what we saw from Deft a few games in a row. Still made it work in that game against Longzhu.
Nah, I'm not trying to, just smack talking the whole time. It's just funny to see them whiffing by every now and then. But he has had some pretty insane games on it in the past.
Vision is a big problem for KT. Baron can be forced at almost any moment. Already we got to the point where Blank can shrug off the damage, and KT have to respect Blitzcrank Hook. Every ward they clear, every brush they sweep. Score having to stay so far back. So difficult for KT to really achieve very much. All they can really do is push out their mid lane safety. Everything else has the potential to be turned against them.
Wolf waiting in the brush. Let's see if anybody's going to cheat far enough forward, but the lantern check is there.
Big benefactor here, even though the 80 carries are trading, is Corki, who's able to go to the side lane. KT don't have enough control in that area. Talia falls further and further behind. It's about to be a flame horizon for Faker in game 4.
That's crazy. Yeah, 3 more CS. But he's not going to get it yet. He's going to give Pawn a chance to go ahead, fire back, and delay this flame horizon for a little bit.
You can have a chance to fall less than 100 CS behind.
How kind. As Xerxes said, I am a merciful god. Faker just expressing a similar sentiment here. As there you go, we have it, 100 CS. Flame Horizon achieved for Faker. Will be taken away rather swiftly, but so will this turret.
Game plan to KT just wasn't possible after they started trading down early. They tried 3 pushing lanes and also trying to look for the ganks with the Zac, but moment that Blank found the pick in mid lane, mid lane's been a wash for SKT. They've been able to just grow bigger and bigger leads, put Corki around the map a lot more effectively than they could in the previous game, due to the fact that he has teleport this time. It's, as we're watching SKT pick up basically every creep on the map, remember that KT is so often missing half a wave, 2/3 of a wave, just losing out in terms of that creep score every single moment, and that means the gold lead is increasing without even big objectives being taken down.
SKT clearing out some more vision around the Baron. Don't think we're going to be seeing it started up here anytime soon. Any pick, however, and that will likely be the turn. In the meantime, though, they just have waves pushing across the board, and a second Infernal Drake spawning in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
And the waves pushing for KT is something they want. Obviously, every team wants pushing lanes, but when the wave pushes where you see in the top lane, no one can actually go there. They have to respect Blitzcrank Hook. They lose CS like we mentioned in that lane. Nara has teleported in bot lane. We see Smeb grouped just because he wanted to try and force something without the teleport, but now he has to run all the way back to bot side. SKT push in, and now every single time they do, the question is, are they on Baron or not? Eventually the answer will be yes, and that will probably be the end of the game for KT.
Yeah, do have the 2 Scrying Orbs, however, to help them check for the Baron, with one of them getting ready to come back on cooldown there for Deft. Even then, they have to be careful. If Intara can time things properly, could get something like an interrupt in onto Smeb, and then maybe hop away and try to get his own TP off. Or just try to match him. Just go at the same time, but have Meganar ready to go. But coming out, they will find the lockdown there on the score, and so much damage. Kidnap off as he jumps to the side, gets out safely thanks to Mata. But the blue buff will be taken away.
Zac ult cannot be interrupted, that's why he opened with it. And SKT, for the first time, we see people actually choosing to stay in the Zac ult when they thought they could kill him on the back end. But
take
Thresh,
me with you.
Thresh was there, and that lantern is one way. No enemies can come with Thresh. That would be a big nerf. Score will go back, pick up some farm, but he's walking over to areas that are warded by SKT, and the Baron pressure remains.
Looks like it's going to be this Infernal Drake, however. Recalls are coming through from score. Still too low to try to contest this, so it's just going to be SK Telecom picking up a second Infernal Drake, 16% AD AP. Now over to them with another Ocean Drake as our 4th and potentially final here.
Damage dealers buffed up, even Untara feeling great about the Infernals being complete. Faker's looking for the double Flame Horizon. Don't often see those in playoffs, but
definitely a rare one.
Game goes long enough. Would not count against him picking it up.
We talked about what happened when Faker gets pissed off.
He gets 3 levels above Pawn and makes Pawn, unfortunately, look a bit like Spring Pawn after he'd done such a good job of raising expectation around him. He's had a much, much better summer season. But a lot of players have wavered in performance against Faker. It's what he can do. He plays aggressive. His tendency is always to look for an advantage. And when the ganks are there, he kind of always plays like the jungler's in the right position. And when he actually is, you get the ultimate punishment, which was Blank picking up that early kill onto the Talia. And Talia's not seen a look into the game since then.
No, really hasn't. Still doesn't even have a second item 26 minutes into this one, whereas Faker has 3 plus his tier 2 boots. It has not been a good time whatsoever for Pawn. It's the 1 assist contributing to his gold count, aside from the paltry amount of CS that he has. I mean, look at that. That's almost a 5,000 gold lead for Faker alone.
2/3 of the gold lead is in Faker's hands, and as an SKT fan, that's something you've never worried to hear.
Nope.
About the safest hands as can be.
That's like having insurance on your game. So they're in a pretty good spot, it turns out.
There's so little that KT can do. I'd love to theory craft things they can do, but with Blitzcrank to respect, with how much gold they are down, Pawn's a free kill.
Oh, that's going to be a flash away from Pawn. Still takes a hell of a lot of damage from the Rockets. TP going to have to be canceled, and just like that, SKT have that much pressure around the Baron. Smeb's already abandoning the bottom lane.
Score is a level above Blank, so not a 0 chance that a Baron steal could come in. Still SKT, the right move here is to find a Baron force or to create enough pressure on the map. The Baron can be forced, because they do have that teleport advantage. It's why you already see Renekton walking up.
As soon as he had to cancel that one out, just immediately abandoned, which means that Antara is going to be able to scoop up that tier 2 turret in the bottom lane. So KT, if they could ever hope for a fight, they would have to take it right about now, but the TP from the Gnar would still be available in the end.
Nar's exhausted, but that's just fine when you're looking for turret damage.
They can just delay. KT can still just hold on. Decent wave clear there in the mid lane, but they're in the vicinity. Blitzcrank's coming right back around, so they should be safe to go ahead and defend this. As Def desperately tries to take this one out, but yeah, preemptive Lantern thrown down. They know they have to abandon it. In the meantime, Antara is just getting free hits in. Might even just finish off this inhib turret.
No aces up the sleeve for KT Roll, so they've only got a Joker card. The entire deck is in SKT's hands. They can do whatever they want. They start the Baron, but pull off it. They already got the inhibitor turret in bot lane. Teleport still a couple of minutes off cooldown for Smeb, and the gold lead, it just grows bigger.
And I mean, this is the macro that we were talking about that was missing from the first 2 games. It seems like SK Telecom were lost. They didn't know what to do, and KT had all the answers, but now SK Telecom, it's like they've already seen this. It's like they're from the future. They've already seen how this game plays out. They have all of the moves jotted down. They know every single play that KT wants to make, and they can just counter it perfectly. Now Antara, see what he's got. Well, he misses the boomerang, so not going to be that helpful, but does have the slow up here.
Going towards the blast cone.
And goodbye. Decent bit of damage.
Yeah, decent bit of damage, but when the first boomerang went wide, like you mentioned, kill pressure was entirely gone. Would have had to overchase to get the kill, even if he was able to hit everything.
Don't want to be flashing in for a kill on the Renekton.
Well, they just don't need to. You know, KT overforcing for a kill in game 3 ended the game, but they felt like, okay, we get the kills now or we lose. In this sort of a game, the only way SKT can lose is a pretty catastrophic mistake in the 1v1 between Smeb and Antara, I would say. A Baron steal obviously would be a joy as well, but they never have to do anything until everything lines up. Start that Baron a second time, but they're going to be ready to peel at a moment's notice.
Well, Antara is already going to go ahead and start hiding out in the jungle, has the TP ready to go as he starts
Caitlin's
running
still
up.
Get nowhere near it.
Yeah, Smeb's going to be matching, and that's just going to be Smite coming down. No one can walk up. Baron goes over, Wolf checking the brush with the hook. Not going to be finding anything once the blue buff.
No
so
risk.
Will get reset.
No risk at all on the Baron Achilles. They saw Deft cleaning up minions next to his inner turret. They had an exact read on how much damage they could do. No real chance of a steal.
Oh. Well, he's got a Banshee's Veil.
That's nice. He's got no damage. So that's nice. Also,
I just mean he wouldn't have gotten hooked there at least.
Yep, they're right. And he can't do much damage when you're dead. Unfortunately, when he's alive, he does similar amounts of damage.
Yeah.
Wonder what KT makes of this, because the other interesting strategic thing was we mentioned during picks and bans, SKT chose red. So now what does KT Rolster want to do with side choice in 5th game if we go to the 5th game? Because we saw Samsung choose red against SKT and look foolish. A lot of interest here, because if Faker keeps getting these positive lanes, if Antara can lane as safe can be, it feels like SKT have rewritten our expectations about the series in the next 2 games, and now their fans will be just as buoyant as KT fans were after game 2.
Faker's almost 6,000 gold ahead of Pawn right now.
I mean, there's just nothing to talk about in this game.
He has half of the gold lead.
This game is about as over as can be. I'd love to give silver linings for KT Rolster, but even if they got the team fight that SKT shouldn't be interested in opting into, they're over 10,000 gold behind and 2 Infernal Drakes behind. So all they can really do at this point is push lanes, talk about strategy for future series, and expect that there's going to be a couple of those big rockets coming their way.
All right, well, Faker pushing forward. Just the auto attack onto Pawn.
No crit for that one.
Absolutely disgusting. Bang. We'll just go ahead and take that ace in the hole. But he'll be all right. Doesn't have any life steal at the moment, but something tells me he'll be just fine.
Be a fly
no
on
life
the
steal
wall.
items, I should say, by the way. He does have the Warlords.
Be a fly on the wall of the KT Rolster booth and hear how the comms are going. Talked about how this team can be very emotional. A lot of players who are the biggest names in their team.
Flash to the
try
side.
something.
Bang will get drawn back in. Hook not going to connect. The score just takes a minion for a ride. Centaur, in the meantime, will go ahead and take that first inhibitor of the game. 32 minutes in. Baron buff still on the members of SK Telecom. It's about 75% of the way done as he transforms and can just go ahead and push back up towards this mid side if they so choose. In the meantime, Faker did a lot of damage to this this top lane inhib turret, as you will now see. And now it's gone. Just Faker things. Tier 2 in mid going down. All of the turrets outside of the base have been eliminated. Going to be 2 open inhibs in the base, about to be 3, and maybe they all just get taken because SK Telecom are looking completely unstoppable here in game number 4. Jump in, comes through from score, takes a ton of damage immediately as Mana finds a hook down onto Bang, but he QSSs it immediately and fires back with the kill. Almost finds depth as well, but doesn't want to go leaping in onto multiple members, but Adara says, screw it, I'm tanking it up, I'll do it for you. Hook coming down, finds score, he's going to get the passive pop, they'll finish him off, and it's just going to be Pawn with no damage, feeling all so lonely back in the fountain as SKT goes ahead and shatters this Nexus. Yet again, 33 minutes on the clock. We're going all the way, Papa Smith. We're going to game 5, where SKT looks to complete a reverse sweep.
SK Telecom